What does it mean to be doing your best, to be doing the best, and knowing it's never been done before? Well, a lot of it's all covered in this video, which may be hard to watch. And if you're surprised to be watching it, you really should just keep watching. This is going to cover kind of some of my day to day while being homeless for more than 500 days. I'll look at it a few other times. And really, it's a message to my brother and a message to the world at large, because it is likely I won't be around to tell him these kinds of things. So we're just going to have to realize Nathan's doing the best. He's doing his best, and it's never been done before. And it's available right now and for all time. Can everybody see that? It's a school, but in front of the school is a soccer goal. And this is a soccer field. Why am I showing you this? Well, like my dad used to say, there's a reason and then there's a real reason. The reason I'm showing you a soccer goal is because it just happens to be something that was close to me where I woke up this morning on my 557th day homeless. Last night, where I was sleeping was kind of unknown. A soccer goal in a soccer field is something that is part of our family's DNA. It is not something my dad can take. I can't get to it. The reason is there's a fence right here. I can't get any closer to it, but I can show it to you. I can demonstrate and show you why I can't get any closer to it. But I can demonstrate and I can just tell you, and someone out there can understand right now, that because my dad is sleeping with a 7-year-old boy, he is taking everything. Everything. He is not taking away the soccer goal specifically, or a soccer field. But the idea of children being together and playing and all the memories I have associated with it is under threat. That is what I am going through, and no one else can understand it. But now I think people are starting to clue in onto the idea. I'm homeless because the family has collapsed, because it already collapsed. It was under threat from its self-drew in 1997 when our family got divorced the first time. Guess what happens after that? Nothing better usually happens to a family when it gets divorced. It becomes susceptible to things like this happening, so the family collapsed again. Because my father stopped believing in all things until he's sleeping with a 7-year-old boy, and that is why I've been homeless for 556 days. Okay? He cannot take away a soccer goal, a soccer field. Those things will always be in my domain. I was the one that started playing soccer. He never did. Okay? Basketball court and a playground, more his thing. He tried to make that me and Drew's thing, and me and Drew never caught on to that because it was already after the divorce. We started playing soccer when we were still a united family. And so my mother was more successful being a soccer coach and a nurse and a single mother getting divorced when she was a soccer coach, because we already had the memory of being on a soccer team when that happened. Now my father is trying to take the whole existence of childhood away, and I am fighting for that. It is important, and it is important, Drew, my brother, because you may have children and you are not able to understand my life is always at risk, and it is at a 16 times higher likelihood of death until I am not homeless anymore. I need everybody to really, really try and focus right now. Given the information we just saw, I'm in a new location, right? I am going to a bagel shop. This is my next prospective employer. I just started work again, and it's a full-time job, second shift, 2 to 10 p.m., 40 hours a week. I've got to be as successful at that job, and then I also have to take another job in order to defeat homelessness as quickly as possible. And I've got to perform both of those jobs like I was never homeless. Like, none of the impact of being homeless or my father sleeping with a 7-year-old boy ever happens. I have to blend in and just be as successful, and that includes my employers not knowing, if I can help it. If they find out on YouTube, then they just find out. But it's important to me to give the appearance and the illusion that everything is just fine for continuity and for stability in these jobs as I'm trying to defeat homelessness. Now, it's like St. Patrick's Day, right? There is a parade in downtown Denver. I've got to go check my mail across the city of 3 million people before I have to be at work at 2 p.m. today. I believe it's like 9 o'clock in the morning right now. Okay? How do you think the people at the St. Patrick's Day parade are going to be? They're going to be festive. It's cold. It's like 31 degrees right now. They're going to be in a good mood. They have homes. It'll be cold outside, just as cold as it will be for me. But they aren't in the same frame of mind. And they don't have 555 days before, most of them, being homeless. They're just going from their home to the parade. They will dress warm like I am, and it won't bother them because their father's not sleeping with a 7-year-old boy, and they're not homeless. The whole idea and existence of them going to work is something that probably didn't happen on the weekends. For me, it does. How do you think I feel right now? I've already been outside for like 30 minutes. How do you think I got to this bagel shop? Okay? When I got to the bagel shop, I'm not getting a drink in here. Already have one. Have to always be thinking of this kind of thing all of the time. And I also am confronted with things like soccer goals and soccer fields and children playing in the snow, and everything that's supposed to be normal is no longer normal because it's under threat. The entire existence of any of that ever happening for me in a relatively normal way all got screwed up, Drew, when your father said, I'm going to go sleep with a 7-year-old boy. I'm going to leave you here in this cabin, and I'm going to go do exactly that. And then he did leave overnight, and he came back about 10:30, 11 a.m. in the morning, and he was laughing and giggling. And he was in a euphoric, unusual state, and then he promptly called the 7-year-old boy, and that was the only person he talked to all day long, frequently, on multiple phone calls, time and time and time again, until he finally left me in a house, the one that we grew up in, or whatever, the one that I left when I left for Colorado in 2019. He left me there, Drew, and he left me there with no transportation, no communication, and no access to fresh drinking water. So I left the house, the 6,000 square foot house, that for the very first time ever, the mortgage was allegedly all paid up, and the house was for sale. The house was for sale, but always, all of the time before, Drew, this is the only thing of value your father had always promised us in the past would definitely be passed down to us. Now it's suddenly for sale. Now, I know my father better than any other person on this planet. It should be our mother, but she can't remember the husband she had temporarily after him. So, I think I know. I believe our father has the house for sale, Drew, because he probably can't help it. There's probably so many other people doing so many other bad things to get what they want. Somebody wants my dad's house. But I believe that my dad was fine enough with the house being for sale, Drew, that was always before supposed to be ours, because your father also, Drew, while knowing I'm homeless, was looking forward to returning to Maine to live there and have a brand new Mercedes, or a pretty good condition, another Mercedes. He's already had a Mercedes-Benz. He wanted to have another one, and he was telling me this on like the second day he was with me after I'd already been homeless for 6 months. Your father was already comfortable enough telling me the house was supposed to be ours, was going to be for sale, is for sale, and that he intended to live out the rest of his days in Maine with a new Mercedes-Benz. And I believe, best of my knowledge, I think he had intentions of that 7-year-old boy being with him in Maine. They live in West Virginia. That is a problem, Drew. And there was absolutely no rush, My father said there was no deadline on selling the house, and he wasn't worried about it. There was another man's SUV, not one of my father's completely free SUVs. He's been amassing this collection for years. He has 3 free SUVs and a 6,000 square foot home. He has dark secrets, and he just told me he was sleeping with a 7-year-old boy. He just flat out cannot ever, in a court of law, say he never said that. He did. Okay? He did. When your father says that to you, it's like everything hitting a windshield. I've got a whole video explaining that. Maybe I'll just include it in this video. I'm so angry that I have such compassion. I didn't know this was in me, but it was in me the moment my dad said, I'm going to leave you here in this cabin and go to sleep with a 7-year-old boy. And I was like, exactly what it's like when I'm at the DMV and I see a little child, and then I have to go take my picture, and I explain it's the best picture ever. So I'm crying tears of joy. I'm caring about that little kid at the DMV and all little kids that have ever existed, including me and you, Drew, when we used to be them. I'm going to this bagel shop to get breakfast because I need to. I'm spending the last $21 I have right now, not all on a bagel, but some of the only $21 I will have until the Lord provides. And I provide for myself because I've been working. Today is St. Patrick's Day, it's the middle of March, and I have been working to work at 7-Eleven since around February 1st. It has taken that long, and I still have to continue to survive. Right now, last night, I was unable to stay where I normally stay because somebody basically has got to kind of feel like my dad does. They've got to feel taller and stronger than I am when they're not nearly as tall as strong. I have got to put up with people's bullshit like that all of the time because I'm homeless, because the family has collapsed. Sometimes people become homeless because they're strung out on drugs and they can't get it together. They usually have arrest records. They usually have bad histories. I have never been arrested. I have no drug charges in my entire lifetime. I have been homeless for 556 days and never arrested. Maybe that's a good indicator, but what I'm telling you is the proof that my father is sleeping with a 7-year-old boy because he told me he was, then he left. At this bagel shop, I'm also going specifically here for breakfast to inquire about working here again because I applied online at the store about, 3 or 4 weeks ago. I talked to the manager. They were interested. They weren't able to make a decision on how soon they would be able to hire. They were interested in me as a candidate in general. It is time to follow up. I have to make every decision I make with $21 to spend. I have got to buy the cheapest bagel, and then I have to proceed from there. But I can't just go get a bowl of cereal in my kitchen because I haven't had one in 556 days. Last night was very hard. Last night was very hard unnecessarily, but I held on to my faith, I struggled and I prayed, and then he made it happen. The Lord made it happen. I have something really good to tell you. Alright, I ordered a new phone. I had to finish my taxes, and I did. It was hard. It was hard. An accountant could not help me finish it, so I finished it by myself. I woke up this morning, and the person I stay with, a good buddy of mine, gave me this charger. He just gave it to me. It's a wireless, fast charger. I have to charge the phone through this video right now. Sorry, while I wait on the mobile order. We need to accept the fact that if I'm going to have one meal a day because I'm homeless, I'm going to try to make the most of it. That includes trying to get a job. This is a picture and showing people working there. One of these people, and there was a few more other people working there. It was not the right environment for me to follow up on the job manager that I had seen before that was very interested, was not there at the moment. And I already know from having taken a while to order the mobile orders to get a $2 off, and changing because of my wallet being replaced recently. It's never found again, but after all that, I know that I have, a drink at the bicycle, and I have to charge the phone. I need to not raise any suspicion while also inquiring about a job. It just wasn't safe enough to do that at that time to guarantee the best chance of getting employed there. Is everybody out there able to follow this logical process? I don't want to talk much about my present day situation that I have to survive for one time right now, but I do want you to understand how complex it and challenging it is and how much you never thought about any of this. But I want to show you, I did have to have breakfast somewhere at some point. I need to eat. I need to eat to live. Homeless not. I also need a job. I was filming on the bicycle. Assistant manager, who I've never seen before and doesn't know me, may have seen that and thought, that's a little odd. Then I went in and the phone was dying. I have used a new debit card that I've never used before on an app that I've used one time, and to get the $2 off, I need to save money. And then I wanted to really, my main purpose there, being at that one, was to inquire about the job there. But due to taking too long and also needing to charge the phone and having probably, maybe, possibly have been seen filming outside, then asking for a job or asking any information about, like, appearing interested in working there to the assistant manager would have been too much for his brain to understand any of this. It just would, I would not have the best reception if I was to go back tomorrow or whenever I can and inquire with the manager I already had a wonderful rapport with. When I was walked in as was a normal customer, ate the bagel, drank coffee that I purchased there that day while I applied for the job, and then before I left, I asked the manager, can I talk to you? You were out working. And he was like, we really have so many mornings, I'm just not exactly sure when. What's your name? We talked for 5 minutes. Okay? It'll happen, but I have to protect as much as I can what I can do right now. But I'm showing you that. And if this job doesn't work out, they find this YouTube video, there's other jobs in this country. I have to make sure I keep my 2 documents required to work. Social security card, birth certificate, or driver's license. I've been robbed 10 times, so we're hoping for the best. Now that I've got breakfast, let's just go somewhere else and eat it because we have to, because I'm homeless. How about that? We are looking at the reflection of me and his bicycle and the hospital pharmacy window. It's a reflection. You see, there's downtown. We're at the hospital to eat breakfast. I have to be able to stop this bike. And for any reason, if we're in a dead zone, if the phone goes down, if for any reason this bicycle does not get stopped, it goes over 30 minutes, it's gonna eat into that $21, less than $21 I have now to survive until the Lord provides. There's been times when I could not stop the bike or scooter. When that happens and you have no money, guess what happens? You no longer have access to the free bikes and scooters everyone in Denver has if you have food stamps or Medicaid. If I go over 30 minutes, if I go over 2 cents, if I don't have 2 cents, until I have 2 cents in my bank account and they take that too, I don't have any access to bikes and scooters. I only get about 10 bus tickets per month. Okay? Those are the conditions I have been surviving in and trying to be successful in for 556 days. Notice the bike's up there. I stopped it. Notice I'm going in. Breakfast and my backpack. Why am I doing this? Because it is important for you to understand I could not charge the phone and eat breakfast and bring in this 7-Eleven Coke, which is the same free 7-Eleven drink, and someone filled it up with Coke before I left. I went to the soccer field. This is how I'm surviving at 556 days, but I have to stay on the move. See, it wasn't actually safe for me to do what I really wanted and needed to do, inquire about employment, and be at the bagel shop getting breakfast, because relocating and constantly moving is a strategy employed by wildlife. Things like antelope do it. But if you're homeless and you need to blend in and not cause attention to yourself and keep yourself safe, this is also a strategy that has always worked for me in the past, so it probably will keep working for me in the future. And I have to do this way. I have to be this calculated By this calculated, I mean because my phone has a giant hole in the back, I need to make sure it doesn't go below 5% so I can stop the bike and scooter when I get to the hospital. And then I have to have the breakfast in the backpack so I'm not, causing alarm to any security people who don't want to see food. But I'm going to try to go eat it in the hospital where it's warm and safe and there's Wi-Fi. I have to be somewhere. It's better be indoors. I know that. The focus of this video is really a message to my brother Andrew and a message also to the world while I'm speaking to my brother Andrew about what happened to our family and what's going on with it right now. However, I did just do, 2 days ago, a huge series, a 2-part weather series where I explained my grandmother felt that she had to let her children know what the weather was like outside. I really encourage you to watch that. I'd also like for you to understand my father was very successful as an artist in the 1990s when he employed the use of his children then. And we were quoted in our Mount Airy newspaper, the Mount Airy News, America's #1 TV hometown, home of the Andy Griffith Show. We were the family that was quoted as a modern family embodying the Norman Rockwell lifestyle. So we are not a whole bunch of hillbillies from the country who didn't have any common sense. But I do know that that is also under question and under threat, just like my memories of childhood. I have the breakfast in the backpack so I'm not, causing alarm to any security people who don't want to see food. This meticulously strategized and developed so that nobody else ever has any clue. Do I appear homeless? No, I don't. I know that. I have to fight for that all of the time. Drew, do you have memories associated with specifically an elevator and a hospital and a voice like that? You probably don't, because you don't remember anything before 9/11, and you were born in 1990. I remember 1990 and all the years after that really well. The concept of being in a hospital elevator with a woman's voice that sounds just like that is also under threat. Because as our children were born, we were going to see our grandparents in the hospital when we were children. We really did. Whether you believe it or not, whether you remember it or not, and I know you don't, Drew, because your grandparents, your father's parents, died when you were less than 2 years old, both of them. Okay? I remember who they are. You don't. That's why you're unable to care if I'm alive today, because you just never grew up. You're stupid, Drew. You're stupid, and your father knows that. Your mother used to know that, and they employed both of those things to their advantage, to divide and conquer between two of us, to get what they wanted most of the time, almost all the time. It was keeping you in the dark, Drew. It's why you're unable to care if I'm alive today. It's why you're unable to understand any of this stuff I have to go through. And you don't care. You will be the last person. Britney Spears knows before you will. You will be the last person to know how vital it is, Drew. I'm the only brother that you have. And I'm not alive today and every single day until the day you have children, until the day you get divorced, until the day you have cancer, until the day your wife dies, until the day your kid loses their limbs in a car wreck. Until all those things happen, you won't realize how important it is for me to be alive right now. And I'm telling you the truth because that is all I have ever said. I'm not going to be able to get to where I wanted to go, which is the 7th floor, which is a row of chairs kind of like this right here. There's a row of chairs up there, and you can see the Rocky Mountains. It's on the 7th floor. There's free Wi-Fi here, and it's warm, close to where I'll be working at 2 p.m. But I want you to see this right here too. I'm already wearing a uniform for my second day. I'm homeless. This is how I'm starting my day. We're over here in the pharmacy. There's also a whole other time. I'll probably create a playlist and link all these videos together. But there is also another experience where I'm at the same hospital in the summer of 2023 for suicide. I was brought here by 2 police officers and I was discharged within 3 hours. And I tried to charge the phone at the pharmacy since I'm discharged because they want me to get on a bus. 3 security officers escort me outside the hospital, which is right there. Do not allow me to come to this building to charge the phone. They want me to just get on a bus. And then they take me to Starbucks. There's a whole video of me at Starbucks, not committing suicide and dealing with the hospital also. This has got to be successful. I need somewhere warm and that has Wi-Fi, and so that I can work and demonstrate and show you today, after the very challenging night I had last night, what I have to do to have a complete recovery and be successful today. For as long as I can, as quickly as I can. And if I do this video at 30 frames per second, because I like to do it at 60 frames per second, it will look better for all time that way. But I have to do it at 30. This phone has a giant hole in the back. It doesn't hold a charge. So with the charger, we are only at the seat with the only outlet around that is available. There's no one right over there. There's a man right over there with one. He knows the charger. I have to sit where I can charge the phone. This is how I have to operate at 556 days homeless with full-time employment and already wearing the uniform. And now, the phone's charging. Now I can eat my bagel. But if for any reason I don't really have business at the pharmacy right now, then they catch on to that, then I'll have to go over to radiology and see if I can get away with it there. If not, I might go over to urgent care. I can't go to Union Station right now. Is all this completely necessary? Like, all that. Apparently, it's the Irish's fault because we're having the St. Patrick's Day thing and they're like blocking off 90% of Union Station. You see that white perimeter right there? Now, remember, the focus of this video is for me to talk to my brother about my family, what happened in the past, and what's going on now. But I want to demonstrate absolutely my best job that these are pictures of what Union Station normally looks like. Normally, that white perimeter is not there. It's there for St. Patrick's Day for a special event. But Union Station is a place, if you're homeless, you can go and be warm, have Wi-Fi, and you're also, because you're homeless and need to go anywhere that you can to survive, well, once Union Station closes, this is a picture of me doing a documentary on the relationship of my relationships. But I may have to be forced to stay at this bench where there is a situation with USB-only chargers. I'm not sure if the 2 chargers I have with me will work there. I have a third one. The best one is where I could not stay last night. But I'll be going back there. So for all of those reasons, and understanding this video is for all time, and there was a temporary event yesterday preventing me from going to my ideal situation to create a video like this. I'm instead chilling here at the hospital, warm with Wi-Fi and access to power, close to where I'm going to be working in a few hours. And it's what makes the best and most sense. And if you were me here on the ground, you would understand this. And I think that I've done a really good job of conveying that online for all time. It's impacted my charging stations and I gotta get to work. Oh, deliberately and completely unnecessary to block off Union Station for St. Patrick's Day. I gotta get to work. I gotta get on a scooter, need this phone to work, and also, is this video completely necessary? Look where I'm at. I'm at the shared office space. 24/7 access, mail, electricity, warmth, everything that I need when I don't have anywhere to go in 10 days. This is a very life essential place. It makes so much sense. And I did that PayPal fundraiser and I asked everybody for a safe and consistent place I can go when I had none. Remember that? Remember how many times I posted about that? Remember how like nobody donated to it because nobody else ever understood when it was like freezing rain and sleeting and cold and I went to the Starbucks, but that Starbucks closed at 5 and I got there at 4:45, so I had to get on a scooter and go to a whole other Starbucks. Like it took like a very long time. It was exhaustive. I was freezing cold, I almost died. It was like freezing rain and cold and snowy and icy, and I had to ride the scooter on that because that's surprise. That was just one day. It was one time I had a safe, consistent place to go, but I couldn't stay there during an ice storm for just a couple hours. That was an emergency. We have a lot of them as homeless people all the time. I did not plan ahead enough to know absolutely that Starbucks was going to close at that day, at that time. And then I made the PayPal fundraiser that day and everything like that. And nobody, like, But you understand, like, that's already, all that already happened. All that happened, and the man who has to feel taller than I am right now, for no reason, because he's sleeping with a married man whose partner is dying of cancer right now in the hospital, and I have a job, and he has never had a job since I've ever known him. Yeah, that's all true. And I'm ready to go ahead and tell you that right now. Why not? It's just how Nate rolls, because I don't deal with people's bullshit. I never sacrificed or lowered my standards on anything the entire time I've been homeless. And that is why you are now realizing who Nate is. Who Nate has always been. Now you're realizing it. Somebody out there is. Okay? My success, to be able to be at 7-Eleven, I can't stay at the homeless shelter when I work 2 to 10 p.m. That's the only shift available. So now I am kind of basing life and being successful at being able to be somewhere when I'm not there from 2 to 10. If it's 10:30 at night and there's 2.5 feet of snow on the ground in Denver, which can happen at any time, this time of year, then I have to be ready to survive the problem right in front of me, right then. So stupid that everybody is completely fine and always has been this entire time. When I made it to Elon University in my 3rd week, and they kicked me out because my father went to January 6th, that's something they will be living with and dealing with for as long as I live, if not longer. But since I'm 16 times more likely to die, this could be the last thing I ever do. I'm going to make this as solid as rock. Brenda Fletcher, Katie, and Jeff Hendrick, you are 3 people who are alumni that knew me and were aware of this experience, and I've reached out to you multiple times. You also graduated from Elon University and still have no common sense. I got there my 3rd week homeless to try to circumvent all of this bullshit. Now it's 557 days. Exactly. Today is. Mr. Donahue, over at Elon School of Communications, you blew your shot. You blew your shot. I didn't have videos of me singing Christina Aguilera out here at the hospital earlier if I didn't already know. I was gonna call this video Love for All Seasons, and I was gonna have to need stupid videos in a way to have ones like this one that will have more lift, because I am the best. And you, Mr. Donahue, have failed. You have to just deal with it. You have to accept the fact. Nathan's right. And they're kicking me out of Elon University. Because my father went to January 6th, and that was the only reason, and Elon University doesn't know that my father also made me homeless in 2016, and I defeated it, so we went to New York City, and then I got promoted across the country, worked 16 jobs. We're gonna get right back to my family and the message to my brother, but this has got to stick. Praise the Lord that Dr. Archino, when I got there, and I had to deal with a young student worker who was at the front of the student health center and was like, you need to get out of here, you're old. Like, once I finally cut through the bullshit of the never-ending, literally life-threatening bouginess of Elon University, that will be like, when I take my last breath, there will be a plan for what we will continue to be doing to fight that. For all time. I am literally the Phoenix Rising. It is literally your mascot. You kicked me out over January 6th. You're gonna keep dealing with it. The focus of this video is on my family, a message to my brother, and what's happening and what happened in the past. But we have to acknowledge all this. Shitty shit. Gavin Kelly, you just tune into my stories and have been following all this because you are just like a really horrible person. Katie and Jeff Hendrick and Brenda Fletcher, I had more faith in you from the start. Maybe you can email these people. Maybe you can find their parents and they can say, we didn't send our kids who are like in their 50s and 40s to Elon University to come out with this much stupidity. But I want to just say, praise the Lord, because this is something I have cried and wept about in the freezing cold, on a train, walking endlessly while at an interstate kidnapping, walking back to the state just so I could leave it. These are the things I have praised the Lord about. Praise the Lord. Dr. Archino saw me that day and said, if you have no other home, I'm glad you are here. We're going to do the right thing. We're going to make sure that you're not homeless as soon as possible. Bless your heart that you had to sleep outside and you were chased by a maniac with dumb chucks. It's awful that you have a family that cannot respond and that your family already made you homeless. Those words were said by Dr. Archino at Elon University. Stopped it. Now going back, as quickly as I can to the message to my brother, which is all of this. We need a park bench at Elon University dedicated to my only DNA relative, my second cousin, Pamela Reed Ferenczi, was the only one, and is still the only one, other than my father, who, sorry for all the edits, I'm trying to get this right. Pamela Reed Ferenczi is the only DNA family member I have who says that you're homeless. Come live with me. That is exactly the case. She died. My father offered me a place to be, to exist, so I wasn't homeless. But it's not. It's just not the same. Pamela Reed Ferenczi loved me like a normal person, like a normal family member. My father only had me there, I believe, to exploit me for physical labor and anything else he felt like he could exploit from me. And is still the only one, other than my father, who met me at the Greyhound station, never got out of the vehicle, but really did end up helping me by, this is how he helped. He drove me back in a free SUV he didn't even pay for, paid for by the stepdad our mother divorced, who also has titanium in him. We went to a cabin owned by a lady named Laura Williamson, who Drew already demonstrated she has very poor character and is someone who is enabling my dad to have a closer access, no bills, and a warmer, more safe, comfortable home in the woods that is closer to where he is sleeping with the 7-year-old boy. I know that she already had poor character and not good judgment. It was not somebody I could have much faith in. When in 2015, Drew, she showed up at the house in Kimball, the 6,000 square foot house that had no water in it. Dad drove her in 2015 in a vehicle with a 25-year-old mother of 3, what the old woman named Laura Williamson cared about. And she, I'm pretty sure, knew that Dad was in a relationship with someone else, someone his age. She went ahead and went with my dad. I was at home at the time. Dad showed up in the driveway with the old woman named Laura Williamson, who owns this cabin that's closer to where he is sleeping with a 7-year-old boy with. And he showed up with a 25-year-old mother of 3 named Ashley. Ashley was giggly and flirty and happy. Ashley spent the night with our father while he was dating someone else. But the old lady was there because on that day, the evening drove, the reason they came to the house at all was to pick me up because we were going to North Carolina, because the old lady, who also paints and lives out of state, was there in 2015 that day. And what she cared about wasn't my father's integrity. It was meeting Ward Nichols and going to the Ward Nichols dinner. Okay? That's all she cared about. She cared about going to see Ward Nichols. And maybe we had to go, we went all the way to North Carolina. I already knew, so as early as 2015, Laura Williamson is the kind of person who absolutely, and clearly did, enable my father to have another home. And he's been doing that. He's been staying there, Drew, since April 2022. Okay? I went homeless in September 2022. And he knew the day I was homeless that I was homeless. He waited until Christmas Day 2022 before he ever reached out. And then when I got to West Virginia, Drew, he never helped. He never helped at all. Okay? I got to West Virginia with a GoFundMe by my family and friends. Okay? I lost my prescriptions. I lost my duffel bag. I lost everything except my jacket and the clothes I was wearing because I was just asleep. Okay, I'm sorry for the edits. I just want to be as clear as possible. I was asleep on a Greyhound going across the country. This is the second of 3 times across the country with less than $15 in my pocket. But I fell asleep on the Greyhound. And sometimes if you're traveling across the country and you fall asleep on a Greyhound, you can get robbed. That's what happened. As I play back this video, what I want to tell you about the nunchucks, my first few days being homeless, I left the Greyhound station in Atlanta and I stayed with a Vietnam veteran. My father does still owe a mural for Vietnam veterans to Rennell, West Virginia, a completely separate topic. But I stayed with someone who was older and had survived the Greyhound station in Atlanta, which was not a very happy place to be. And I went there. There was another guest there, deranged individual, who chased me off the property with nunchucks. Just a few months later, my father ends up in Wilkesboro doing an art show about homes. My father, after making me homeless in 2016 and after going to New York City with me, also sold homes. He sold paintings of homes in the town of Millionaires, Bremen, West Virginia. He sold paintings of people's homes, of their own homes, after he made me homeless. There will be more videos on more topics going into that. But I also want to explain that when I got robbed on the Greyhound going back to West Virginia, which everybody who knows my family and knew the situation then thought that was the great thing to do, not aware that my father was sleeping with a 7-year-old boy. But as I am coming into that situation, when my Greyhound trip is underway and I wake up in Columbus, Ohio with a missing duffel bag, I'm bipolar. I was on lithium at the time, and I go into a lithium withdrawal. It just causes severe changes unexpectedly. I'm also HIV positive. I had to tell my father immediately, as he's telling me he's sleeping with a 7-year-old boy, I'm beyond my control, because it was the best thing for me to do for my health, to get back on my medication, because we're driving around in his fleet of free SUVs. I have to tell my father I'm HIV positive, as he's telling me he's sleeping with a 7-year-old. And his response to me in HIV was, "What do you want me to do about it?" Those were the conditions on how I met your father, our father. Okay, that's what happened this time last year. And then also this time last year, after I decided remember that day, Drew, that you came up and then you left? Like, we came up one evening and you were gone for, like, by this time of day in the morning, you were gone? Yeah. Okay, remember that? Guess what happened about a week later? I was in interstate kidnapping. Okay? I actually had to physically take my left foot and my right foot that had blood on them and were hurting from surviving interstate kidnapping, and then I had to walk back to the state of West Virginia. Another interjection, since Elon University has those t-shirts that say, "You belong here." I never felt like I belonged at Elon when I was at Elon, but I went to Elon when I was homeless because I already knew going there would have been the best solution to get help for being homeless. In my 3rd week being homeless, now it's 500 plus days. It is possible that if Elon University had done the right thing and just helped me all that time ago, I may not have been in an interstate kidnapping. How about that, Elon? And then once I was in West Virginia, I was just in Huntington. I went to your father's #1 art client's home, or tried to, in Ritter Park. I'd only been there once before, like in 2014, when your father received a $500 cash tip, because he's your #1 art client. His name is Alan Morrison, but his wife, Catherine Morrison, grew up in McDowell County. I believe she grew up around Elkhorn, and your father sold her a painting of a home I think she grew up in or knew of in her neighborhood in Elkhorn in 2014. And that's when we delivered that and some other works. I tried to make it, Drew, after being in an interstate kidnapping, to the first person I knew in that area. I had no phone, Drew. With interstate kidnapping, I almost lost my life. That means someone almost tried to kill me. Or I'll explain more about that later. But I was just at Taco Bell needing somewhere to stay for like one night. And there was someone I knew from 8 years ago that I had met 3 times before. And they came to pick me up, and they came to pick me up with a bad person. I didn't know that bad person existed. It was already safer, Drew, getting in the vehicle with that person and a stranger than I was with our mother, because our mother was permanently terminated. Have you ever had a flat tire on the interstate? Imagine that is actually your body. Imagine going to the emergency room and having a toxicology report, and a doctor in the emergency room saying, It looks like someone's trying to kill you. Do you have any idea who would have done that? That was Mom back in 2012. We're still in ICU crash cart meds because she also stopped believing in all things, and she lost her license to practice nursing permanently in the United States of America. So then she went to the country of Saudi Arabia. About the same time, Jamal Khashoggi or whatever was chopped up into tiny little pieces. That is when your mother, Drew, decided to get divorced again and fell in love in like less than 1 second. Fell in love enough that she was determined to get married to someone who we still have never talked to their children, who live in different countries, don't even know how old they are, but I know their names are Robin and Isla. It's been 8 years since they've been married, Drew. We do not know who our family is. It's a problem. It is always going to be a problem. But I could not make it to Alan and Catherine Morrison's house. I got extremely close. I think I was even on Washington Avenue, but I was about to collapse of exhaustion and dehydration, and I also had hypothermia. So what I did then, Drew, since I could not locate the house with the red round door, I specifically remember from 2014 going there one time. I could not remember, Drew, and I was already sleep deprived. I had hypothermia, needed first aid. My feet were bleeding. I had no coach, no money, no phone. And those were the conditions on which I then walked myself to Cobble County Hospital. A partnership with Marshall or something, right there near Ritter Park. Just keep walking, you'll end up at the hospital. I went to the emergency room and tried to report all of this. And what happened then, Drew, I stayed in the emergency room, waiting room for like 16 hours. Somewhere warm. I slept somewhere like a chair, like it really did look just like this. Because guess what? It's a hospital. That's what they look like. And Drew, then I was seen by a doctor. I determined I didn't have any broken bones, no internal bleeding. And then they gave me a printed sheet on depression and told me I needed to go and be on my way. Then I had to try to find a way to get back to Charleston. I had to stay at a homeless shelter in a city I had never any intention of ever being in, and had already tried to find Alan and Catherine Morrison. Guess what? I had obtained their phone numbers. Eventually, finally, I had their full address. Alan Morrison is someone kind of like a Grand Mason to Mr. Todd Fry in our hometown of Mount Airy, Drew. Todd Fry has a son named Nathan, and Todd Fry sold us the house that we were first raised in. I came to Todd Fry with this information about my father sleeping with a 7-year-old boy. First, he couldn't handle it. He's going to have to handle it. Nathan went to Afghanistan, and I became homeless. We grew up in the same house. Todd and Michelle Fry to start dealing with it. I have nothing to feel bad about that. They need to. They are responsible people in their community. If their son can go to Afghanistan, they can deal with this for as long as they live. But I went to Alan and Catherine Morrison's neighborhood, and I got extremely close to Drew, and I thought, I remember meeting him. I remember Catherine Morrison. I remember the house and what that painting looks like. I probably have a picture of it. I'm just trying to do the best job I can do today to illustrate to you today what I'm going through right now. Oh, and Alan and Catherine Morrison have never helped. They've never been responsive. They've never been able to understand. Nathan was in a life-threatening crisis. We were the closest people to him. He tried to get to our house. He was in our neighborhood with bleeding feet, hypothermia, and all those conditions, having just survived interstate kidnapping. They know that information, Drew, and they're not doing anything. They're not saying, bless your heart, that's awful, I hope you get well soon. They're not saying shit, okay? Probably because they're also people, Drew, that are comfortable with the truth, which is our father is sleeping with a 7-year-old boy, which is illegal. It's illegal, which means he will go to prison for it. And it's also immoral, which means he will go to hell for that. You know what hell is? where Satan lives. It's not heaven. It's the other place. Alan and Catherine Morrison declined to offer to help me avoid homelessness by purchasing something they always purchased before and had already given my dad at least one time a $500 cash tip for, which would be original artwork created by our father. They declined to buy that, knowing I was only trying to sell the artwork I had so I would not be homeless. They already did that in the summer of 2022. So I had that knowledge, Drew, when I was trying to get to them after walking back literally to the state of West Virginia. I already had that knowledge, but I thought when they would, if I could find the house with that little red round door, then maybe things would get better. Maybe they would be in a different place and they would see up close and personal how distraught I was when I was surviving an interstate kidnapping. Which, again, reminder to Elon University. I was on campus 500 plus days ago. You should have helped. You didn't. Now this will never go away. But I also must include other people and institutions that just simply never helped either. Pastor Scott Catrone of Cornerstone Family Church in Princeton, West Virginia. Homer and Judy Loudermilk of the Church of God in Dobson, North Carolina, now relocated to Georgia. To Ginger Day of Bradshaw, West Virginia. To Mayor Brian Harrison of Bradshaw, West Virginia. To McDowell County Commissioner Cecil Patterson. Everybody at West Virginia University. Pat Gwynn, unforgettable. And most certainly, Todd and Michelle Fry. The people and the institutions that are supposed to be respected and that are supposed to help. To like so many people, including the whole entire rest of your family, Drew. To everyone out there who's ever thought, you know what, Nathan needs his life saved, but you know what, it's all right with me if I just scuttle away like Rhonda Riggs. Woman brought me to see my brother in 1990. And today is just fine, just like Elon University is still just fine. If I'd had a lot of faith in Rhonda, and I gave Elon University $166,000 to go intern. But they declined to buy the art drove, and I think they probably did that because our father went to January 6th, which was wrong. I think this entire nation agrees the Capitol insurrection was not something that was just or needed to happen, but our father went to that drove. He also deleted the location data of where he was on January 6th, and then he spent several hours in a parking lot in a suburb outside Washington, D.C. in Virginia, searching for a restaurant and places to eat for dinner. This is a suburb, Drew, called Front Royal, Virginia. And your father has been there many times over like 35 years. Many times. He knows where the restaurants at Front Royal are, Drew. Your father is the one that is lying to you, and I have the proof on that about January 6th. But I believe that Al and Catherine Morrison were so uncooperative and unwilling to help me because I stopped working for our father, Drew, right after he bought that painting in December 2020. Your father went to January 6th. I quit working with our father indefinitely over his attendance of January 6th. I think Al and Catherine Morrison viewed that as something where I needed to just kind of fall back in place and keep working for my dad because it was convenient for them. Whether they have feelings on January 6th, I'm sure they do, they probably might side with Donald Trump and our father, Drew. Is this making any sense to you at all yet? Maybe it will in 15 years. I probably won't be a lot. You were to back up and learn the history of your family, Drew. The one concerning Maine, the only brother you have, his family's firstborn son. Two things. One, Drew, when I found out your father was sleeping with a 7-year-old boy, the very first thing that came to my head when I found out that information was really like my brother the one that I've known for 33.5 years, the one this video is for, you kind of go through like, is the sky blue? Am I in North America? Am I on planet Earth? All those checks. And for me, when I find out my dad's doing this, it's like a windshield breaking in the dark. And then it's like, yeah, this is happening. This is happening. And so then it became, for a few days, a whole lot of like my basic, like MS-DOS starting in 1992. It's like the very basics of like my life was most important. And thinking about Drew when my mother was still pregnant with him, and having to go through, and like as a 3-year-old, but I'm 35. This is last year. This is about a year last year. About this time last year. It's me going through and just being like, I remember when it started, just family, or when it completed. When Drew was coming, and I was excited for him to be born. I was thinking of things like that a whole lot. And I had to go through, and I had to really ask myself, do I know that I know that I know our dad is our dad, and our mom is our mom, and our mom is our mom, and I'm pretty sure that our dad is our dad. Homeless people have to be on the go a lot. That information is now not for certain. There's a whole nother video on that called Number One. Might not be the same anymore, but it's still the best. I don't want to get into it, but that's also not fully as certain as it used to be. But when you have information like your dad's a child molester, it takes you back to about 3 years old, and you have to just remember and verify what you think is true, that your brother is your brother. That's what I went through. That's one of the things. And you have came to my mind when someone with a split personality disorder, the same person who drew my year anniversary of becoming homeless, his family cooked me a steak with roasted asparagus and all the fixings, even dessert. And they showed me and expressed so much love to me because they didn't know what to do, but they knew that I needed a good meal. But on September 8th, I was in a good situation and being a good influence on someone who was troubled. They had split personality disorder, Drew. So then they took my phone and they threw it away and they hit me in the eye. And the moment they did, they only hit me one time, Drew, because you as a baby came to my mind. And I turned into the tiger that our mother said she would be if anyone tried to hurt us. And that man was taller and bigger than me. And he never hit me again. But I want you to see something. This street right here, can you zoom in or maybe see that street? It's called Broadway. This is a street, Drew, that you stayed at when you were on vacation in the same city I'm in. So my family has the ability to stop me from being homeless. They have equity. They have material wealth. They just don't have any morals. What I'm trying to say here in these cut up little bits is the year anniversary of becoming homeless. Brother calls me in an annoyed tone, like, what do you want? Not able to just say, we're still caring about you, we're still praying for you, or here's what we think you should do next. And then I surprised him on his birthday about 3 weeks later with a picture he's never seen before of all 4 of us as original nuclear family members in the same shot. The year anniversary I was becoming homeless was very much a day when I'm in the best situation I could put myself in. I'm with a troubled person, but I'm a good influence on them, and their family can see that. They take me out to dinner. They brought me that one dinner, then they take me out to dinner, and they're hopeful that I can be some sort of stable and encouraging force for their troubled grandson. But my friend Ginger Day in West Virginia, someone who'd always been able to be friendly and caring before, some of the time. She decides to come back to my world a little bit. And, it's just a few days later when the person with split personality disorder and I are dealing with him, basically. I'm in a hotel room. The family is encouraging and supportive of me. I'm doing everything that I can. And then Ginger just leaves me. And then I have to survive a stolen phone again. And someone that hit me, they were scared. They really were just out of it. But in the time, Ginger, it seemed like it was just a good idea to just leave me and think that I will die and that will be okay. And that you can just live with that. Remember, as my friend Ginger is abandoning me, my brother is annoyed that I'm still in existence. I encourage you to watch the rest of this video. There's a lot of back and forth points on many things I'm talking about. I wanted you to see my day-to-day, how I actually make it through till I go to work. All the complexities of having to, be successful in this world as a homeless person. I also want to just say right now a couple things. One, I'm going to try to find a clip of me in video later that night after a person with split personality disorder hit me in the eye, and then I am, trying to survive after that. I want you to see that. I want you to see Ginger. You were on my mind a lot that day. This is just one experience of having to survive homelessness that I really wanted to hone in on because it's around my anniversary of being homeless for 1 year. And I did a whole video on that whole physical assault. This will be separate. The other thing I want to say, what's so important for everybody in the world, especially my brother, but anybody in the world, I've never been able to say this before on YouTube, but if you're from West Virginia or North Carolina, places I lived before, you have tended to just go ahead and accepted, I'm not going to help him, he's going to die, and I'm okay with that. And you are going to go ahead and continue to post and live your life like I'm not in crisis. I'm not struggling to make it every single day. Trying to get breakfast and get a job at the same time does not have to be that complex. You have never thought about it, right? Your dad's not a child molester. My father was already made me homeless before he became one. What you need to know is, so there's people like you, and if you know my dad, you're probably one of those people. But in Colorado, I've done something very smart. They're not my Facebook friends. They're my real friends. In Colorado, the message is so much different. They see me on the ground. A lot of the people I'm friends with are homeless or have been. And they have a completely different tone than all you people on the East Coast. So I'm going to go ahead and play this clip of my 368th day homeless. This is not the time I'm physically assaulted, but it is around the time, another time I'm having to flee the person that I'm staying with around my year anniversary of being homeless. And I know that this video is a little jumbled up. There's a lot to it, and it's just kind of hard to follow at some points. But that is also very indicative of the entire homeless experience. So you're just going to have to keep following along. And one more thing for anybody who remembers my family during this time when this was going on. My father was about my age, the age I am now, when he created this, using my name and likeness. He never went to college. He never interned. He never went in the country. His father never made him homeless. He had a private office separate from his home. If you remember at the beginning of the video, I talk about wanting and needing, very essentially, a place like that just to be when they have nowhere else to be. This is the difference. All I got is this little bag. Just me in this elevator. Anything could happen. The door could open and all hell could break loose. This is homeless. This is 2023. This is surviving again, all again. Is this driving you crazy? It should, because remember, a whole year before this, I went to my university for help, and they kicked me out because my father went to January 6th.
368 days of it now. I'm sick of it. I want somebody to love me, but I still love myself. So I'm doing it. And it's raining outside. It's cold. Who knew Colorado would be so rainy when I'm homeless? Life just doesn't work out the way you want it to. It really doesn't. I wish my family cared a little bit. I wish they gave two shits about me. I wish they cared. If anything came through that door, that I knew that I was loved when my last day's over. I don't feel that way, and I probably never will.
All right, so we're going to finish up with my rest of my day here recently in March 2024. But that was back my 368th day being homeless, and I'm in that elevator. I just want to explain this. I'm in that elevator because there's nowhere else to go. It's raining, and I'm waiting on the trains to start operating again. It's like 2 o'clock in the morning and it's raining. There's nowhere else to go. And I'm in that elevator, like aware if anything comes through that door, it's probably somebody on fentanyl or wanting fentanyl. And I will have to fight like hell. Fortunately, I made it through. That was the day Ginger Day in Bradshaw, West Virginia decides to block me and not care if I live or die. It is. But Drew, all of these things happened and they keep happening. And I keep coming back. And this is the best video I can make on my 556th day while in a time crunch and homeless in the snow and have a job to do, literally right now. Because I just happen to be the one that cares. I'm the only one with the gift of memory. Okay? I'm the only one that can remember things like being in the hospital or things about the soccer field. I'm the only one. I'm the only one, and it's under threat because your father's taken all of that stuff. I'm also the only one with dreams. Dreams I can believe in and be strong in, be happy, and move on with my life. I'm the only one that can do that. That I know has both memory and dreams. And it just turns out, Drew, because you are a faithless person, there's probably a whole lot related to how you can't care about me. And your mother forgot everything. She couldn't care though, Drew, when you drove away from me when I was homeless in 2016, because he no longer knew the difference between right and wrong. But Alan and Catherine Morrison were also people I contacted. If you learn our history about our family, which includes me, I'm the star of the show because I've been chronically homeless for over 500 days. I'd have thousands and thousands and thousands of people on YouTube that will be watching this probably before you do. But I contacted Alan and Catherine Morrison, Drew. Let me tell you two things. In December 2020, right before your father went to January 6th, Alan contacted me because he wanted to purchase the painting. He wanted to purchase something. Alan Morrison helped us beat our all-time online sales record for the second time in 2020. A time during a global pandemic, Drew, when your father went to Maine. On the coast of Maine is where your father left his home, 6,000 square feet of it, in West Virginia, because he needed a break. When we were being advised by the government to not travel, and by our president to drink bleach. Your father decided that was when he needed to go to the coast of Maine. But Alan Morrison, in December 2020, purchased something that was only made available to him, his knowledge of it, because I work hard. Okay? He purchased that on like December 26th. And that broke our all-time sales record. So later on, in December of 2022, as I'm working a part-time job, trying to get hired on at another place, third shift, while I'm calling the Colorado Rental Assistance Emergency Program, that turns out to be a computer error, but while I also invite two homeless men to come live with me at different times and trying out to see if they can help me stay in a 500 square foot apartment. It never came to be, Drew, but I called also Alan Morrison back then and said I would like to sell my father's artwork so I do not go homeless, and try to explain to him everything I just said. And he also then, Drew, declined to buy it. Okay, so I tried to make it his house, but before that, I tried to sell it art to him. And this is the man that gave your father a $500 cash tip for driving from Kimball, West Virginia to Huntington, West Virginia. And it was a joyous occasion, and it was no stress. It was just the convenience and wanting to see Tom. This is how comfortable he is with my father and how much my father has of a relationship that my father has with Alan Morrison, who is a leader in Huntington, West Virginia, in Cobble County, West Virginia, America's fattest city. He's in charge of like the water department. Okay, Alan and Catherine Morrison are going to start dealing with this, just like Todd and Michelle Fry are going to start dealing with this, or wishing they did. And I really am calling this video a love for all seasons, a love for all time. Because really, you back up the video, you go back to the soccer, the snow, okay? I played soccer all 4 seasons. Things like that cannot be something I feel bad about, because my father is sleeping with a 7-year-old. He had a quadruple open heart bypass. He was not like that before that I know of. But he absolutely was doing it in 2023. Now when I get off work, and you should check out the song Christina Aguilera did called Love for All Seasons. What got me inspired to do this video, and had the idea a long time ago when I am in other videos, kind of just in a celebratory mood around that area I was in at the hospital singing Christina Aguilera songs. But I knew that I had to have those kind of videos, so I'd have lift for these kind, because I am the best at university. Colin Donahue is not the best, and you got a lot of people out there. Dr. Archibald is the best. Most of the rest of you guys are not. But I'm going to work, and then when I get off work at 10 o'clock at night, I do not know for sure where I will be sleeping, but I have already had that challenge 556 nights before, on top of all the other ones I had in 2016 and 2017, when our father Drew made me homeless and threw his reputation, completely whatever was left of it then, in the trash can. And just like that, Drew, we went to New York City, and your father had business meetings with art galleries to try to get representation in New York City on 5th Avenue. And here are the pictures. Here are the pictures of me and your father in New York City, like weeks after I defeated homelessness that he caused. Okay? Am I being clear? Does anybody doubt that that happened? Does anybody understand that it had to happen because I had to keep believing in my father before he got titanium put in him? Then he stopped believing in himself and all things. Can you hear that music? That is fabulous, but it's also sampled on Mariah Carey's Boy, I Need You. Okay, this is the happy world. This is the world I belong in. But I've got to belong in this world and the one-on-one, this story world. I just got a $1 tip from someone who used to work at a convenience store and knows it's not easy and it's a dangerous thing to do. It was the first job that I applied for at 14 since February 1st that became available to me. And I would love to keep this $1 forever. I would like to get this phone restored, but probably the likelihood is I won't be able to do those things. I keep this $1. Work is the right thing to do. Sleeping with a married man is not ever the right thing to do, especially if the partner is dying in hospital. Knowing that information, if we could say a prayer with tears of joy for the man from California that cared enough for me to have a place to sleep last night. I really appreciate that. If we can also pray for our family in Colorado who understands work is always the right thing to do, and maybe they can even figure out what being the best for all of them would mean. Whether I'll be successful at all my goals, I'm not sure, but the message is we sent it, and for someone's mother, that should certainly mean something. Let's hope.